Okay, you all know why you're here, you've seen the title. Today, I'm going to be predicting the future of the Demonlist, in light of some placement drama and SpaceUK getting exposed for doing a little bit of trolling. And by a little bit of trolling, I mean the biggest hacking scandal in the game's history. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe, it helps out the channel a ton. And yeah, let's get on with the video.
What the hell?
So first up, probably the most obvious issue, Slaughterhouse's placement. I do think that SpaceUK getting exposed will probably end up being a catalyst for a lot of changes in the Demonlist, or at least that's what I hope to be the case. But out of those potential changes, I think the most likely is probably Slaughterhouse getting moved down to either number 5 or number 6. SpaceUK had insisted that Slaughterhouse was harder than every other level that had been verified for quite some time up until Acheron came up, and he kinda really couldn't reasonably deny it anymore. Since then, Silent Clubstep has been moved above Slaughterhouse, which is leading people to think, well, what other levels might get moved above it? Well, looking at the current Slaughterhouse victors' descriptions, from what I can gather, a good number of people simply jumped to Slaughterhouse and therefore don't have as much of a concrete placement opinion on it relative to Kyuki or AOD. There are players like W Popoff that claim that it is, quote, 50-50 harder than AOD, which is why I think we probably will see it set to move at least one place downwards. If we take a look at Trick's ranking of the top 5, he says in the description of his Kyuki completion that Kyuki should be above Slaughterhouse but below Abyss of Darkness. I am personally inclined to believe Trick because he doesn't have a verified rise with any of these levels. However, it should be noted that Zoink claims that Slaughterhouse is actually harder than Abyss of Darkness, and that Kyuki is also easier than Slaughterhouse. However, Zoink did have a pretty rough experience with Slaughterhouse. He's gained a massive skill boost in between his Slaughterhouse completion and his completions of the other levels in the top 5. The general consensus with most victors of Slaughterhouse is that Sakupan Circles is indeed easier, which is why I say it probably won't move any further down than number 6. My personal prediction is that it will move down to number 5 with maybe AOD above it or Kyuki above it. I wouldn't be surprised if it was moved down below both of those levels at number 6, I just think it's slightly less likely. There is also the very real possibility that it stays where it is. I just don't see that outcome as more likely. At this point, there are 2 upcoming top 10s that are actually nearing verification, those being Hybrid's Deimos, currently being verified by Doggy, and Eyes in the Water, currently being verified by Lord Vadercraft. My guess is that Eyes in the Water will place around top 8, so roughly firework difficulty sometime this summer, probably in June or July. But what's more interesting is Deimos, which I assume will probably end up placing somewhere in the top 5, maybe below Avernus. I think Deimos will probably end up making the Slaughterhouse versus Abyss of Darkness situation a lot more complicated, because if players who are good enough to play the level say that Abyss of Darkness is harder but Slaughterhouse is easier, or vice versa, it kind of sets it more in place of which level is harder. In all fairness, I do think Kyuki, Slaughterhouse, and Abyss of Darkness are all around the same difficulty, and it's probably the same case for Deimos as well. I just also think it's possible that Deimos will probably end up shaking up this whole placement thing even more. Okay, so editing me here. So Zoink just recently announced that he's going to be verifying the Cosmos update, you know, like the one that like fixes the level and makes it play decent. So that's also going to be happening pretty soon. My guess is it'll probably place top 5, maybe like top 6. It could end up complicating like a Slaughterhouse versus Abyss of Darkness placement sort of thing. I doubt it. I think it would probably end up placing below both levels though. Ice Cave has stated that Grief will most likely not even be done until around New Year's, so I doubt this will actually factor in for the time being. I'm just mentioning it now because I don't think it will end up being top 1 in its nerfed state, which leads to the next section.
Oh shit, here we go again.
So the most notable upcoming top 1s I think have a shot at becoming top 1 after Acheron are Riot's mysterious Legacy-themed upcoming top 1 that we haven't seen much of, and Comp's new mysterious Legacy-themed level we haven't seen much. Yeah. Honestly, either one of these could end up being really interesting or just really boring and bland. We haven't seen much of either level, we just know both of them are probably top 1. Riot's project, which if I'm not mistaken is named Eternal, has pretty much just gotten one teaser trailer showing some of the gameplay but like super up close with filters on it, kind of like Grief. And with Banshee, it was structured so that whenever someone made legitimate progress, we would see the part of the level that they progressed on. So the only parts of Banshee that we have seen are the ones that SpaceUK hacked. I don't even know anymore. But yeah, there's also Ascension to Heaven, which could maybe end up being top 1 at some point, but if either Eternal or Banshee gets verified before, it's probably not going to happen. At this point, it's way too early to predict what the next top 1 will be, but my money is probably on Riot's new project because Riot is physically incapable of not making 1.9 themed top 1s, and I love it and hate it at the same time. This level better be good or half the community is going to be pissed, dude. As for my thoughts on just the teaser trailer, it seems pretty interesting, like some sort of hybrid between the Acheron and Tartarus deco. It seems like sort of closing a trilogy, however, I would really hope that this is an XL level to make it both 1, more interesting, and 2, that the level's name is Eternal, so I think it should be XL in length. My guess is that Zoink will probably end up being the selected verifier, so yeah, this is probably going to be our next top one. So now that we have that out of the way, let's address, I guess, the elephant in the room. I honestly don't really know what's going to happen to Banshee. My best guess is that it'll either be an open verification, or it'll be given to Zoink, or maybe even Varium, or another top player like Trick, and it'll just be a really long grind. So much is unknown about this level, which does make it more intriguing, especially since we don't even really know how hard it is, because if SpaceUK said that it was harder but than anything else by far, and he was botting it, what is even real anymore? My best guess is it'll probably end up being an open verification, or a top player will give it a shot and then make it an open verification. Either way, I don't really have concrete opinions on the level, or Eternal for that matter, because we just haven't really seen the full levels yet. I know this isn't really like a prediction, it's just me literally laying out all of the different possibilities. I thought I'd just mention it because I know a lot of people are interested in this level and I wanted to at least include something about it, even if it's impossible to tell what's going to happen in the future. Next up is a much more general prediction, which is that interest in the Demonlist will just generally start to go down a bit. The reason I say this is because trust between top players and the rest of the community has been kind of at an all-time low after some minor recent community events. So I do think it's very much possible that general interest is just going to start to decline a bit more with the Demonlist, especially if people don't feel like they can trust most of our top players. That isn't to say that no one's going to care about the Demonlist anymore, I just think the interest will go down a little bit. However, if another top player does get exposed for hacking in the near future, I don't think the majority of the Demonlist fanbase is going to stick around. It does seem like this might end up being split more along the age range of the community, in that younger community members will probably still care about the Demonlist pretty heavily and just focus more on other top players like Cursed, Doggy, Diamond, or Trick, whereas older community members might be a bit more cynical about it. Perhaps this is more just me projecting, as this is very much a prediction that is completely based off of feeling. I know personally my interest in the Demonlist has been fading a lot, mostly because I don't have pretty much any interest in a lot of the levels that are currently on the entirety of the list. This isn't to say that the list is dead in any way, I do think the team is doing the best that they can, especially since they're all pretty much volunteers. But when most of the levels in like the top 10 to top 20 don't really have any value outside of difficulty, it's hard to get excited about a new top 10 or a new top 1 if you don't even know if it's actually a top 1 or a top 10, or even if the player who verified it is legitimate. Ultimately, we'll just have to see how it plays out. However, moving on to my final prediction, which is definitely going to be the most controversial, I think another top player is going to be exposed for hacking. Now, disclaimer, this isn't in any way meant to point fingers at anyone, this isn't in any way meant to accuse anyone of hacking, or even to say that this is the most likely outcome, or that it will happen in the near future. My prediction is very broad and simply is just that we will see another top player being exposed for hacking in the future. And by that I mean before 2.2. The reason I say that is because 2.2 brings things like platformer mode that are just so incredibly different that there will probably be different hacking methods for those categories. What I mean is before 2.2. And the reason I say that is because, relatively speaking, SpaceUK used a pretty simple method of hacking. It really just boils down to using Zbot. I also don't blame the Demonlist for missing this. Does it seem kind of stupid? Yes, but generally it's not their fault, they're just trying their best. I just think that if SpaceUK was able to use a relatively simple hacking method for several years, and get away with it, who's to say that we don't have another top player now who's using a more complex method of hacking, or is just better at covering their tracks? This is why I've said in like multiple videos and community posts that the Demonlist absolutely needs to go through pretty much everything that all of our current top players have been doing, in terms of completions and maybe even just progress, to check for any even slight possibility of any inconsistencies. Now, it is very much a possibility that all of our current top players are completely legitimate, but that in no way suggests that we shouldn't at least investigate it. If Paco had never gone out on a whim to investigate SpaceUK, it's possible he would still be hacking right now, and even maybe years into the future, without people knowing. There are some top players I think are slightly more suspicious than others, however, I do want to make this very clear I am in no way accusing any of them of actually hacking. I'm only stating why it makes sense that there could be some suspicion around them. First off, I want to say Doggy is most likely in the clear given that he uses Facecam, he's done heart rate monitor stuff before, and he streams pretty much everything. So for example, like pre-recorded streams I think would be harder with the Facecam. I'm using Doggy as an example because I don't suspect Doggy at all, but I still think that Doggy should be investigated just as every top player also should be investigated. Essentially just better safe than sorry. And again, I'm not accusing any of the current top players of actually hacking, but I think Zoink is kinda suspicious, because he doesn't take the game seriously and he progresses really, really fast. Again, not saying he actually is hacking, he even streams more than SpaceUK did. But again, I think it's at least worth our time to investigate. If there are any Demonlist mods watching this video, please comment down below your thoughts on this idea, or if you guys are investigating top players right now, or if you can tell me about that or whatever. If it's classified or something, that's fine. But yeah, on that depressing note, thank you for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you guys so much for the recent support, both on my videos but also on my streams. It's been absolutely insane. Thank you. I know the 10k special is super late because I'm already at like 11.5k. It's been like a month and a half, but like I promise I'm getting there. I just am dealing with a lot of IRL stuff. Like there was stuff that came up earlier, but now there's like exams and stuff I gotta worry about. But yeah, that should be coming soon. If you enjoyed today's video and you want to see more like it, please like and subscribe. You'll see more of it. And yeah, I don't just please, I don't do stuff. I don't know. Thank you for watching. Bye.